Hey warriors, if they play dirty, outsmart them mentally, because this world doesn't reward the cleanest heart. It rewards the sharpest mind. Machiavelli never taught people how to be evil. That's the excuse weak thinkers use when they feel uncomfortable with truth. What he actually taught was far more dangerous than evil. He taught awareness. He taught survival. He taught how to stand upright in a room where everyone else is already lying. 1. Why dirty players love good people. Machiavelli observed that the people targeted most aren't weak or stupid. They're good. They're consistent, transparent, and behave the same way with everyone, expecting the same moral standard in return. That consistency becomes a map. Dirty players hunt patterns, not power. They watch for who pauses before responding, who gives the benefit of the doubt, who hesitates to disappoint others. These aren't character flaws, they're signals that invite exploitation. Good people assume shared values and mutual rules. They assume fairness is universal. That assumption is the opening. The moment you believe the other side will act the way you would, you hand them control over timing, tone, and outcome. Dirty players don't need to overpower you. They wait for you to self-limit. Your morality without awareness becomes predictability, and predictability isn't virtue in hostile environments. It's exposure. Stop being readable. The danger isn't kindness, it's advertising it. Dirty players don't fear ethics, they fear uncertainty. They fear people who don't reveal thresholds early. Once you stop assuming decency, you regain leverage. 2. The art of controlled weakness. Raw force attracts resistance. When strength is obvious, others defend, prepare, and close ranks. But when power is hidden, people relax and expose themselves without realizing it. Controlled weakness is not submissive, it's strategic. It's allowing others to underestimate your awareness, your reach, or your intent. It's choosing when not to correct, when not to challenge, when not to reveal understanding. When you present yourself as fully capable and confident, others become cautious. They speak less, give you less, protect their angles. But when you allow small gaps to be seen, the atmosphere shifts. People assume they're ahead. They rush decisions, over-explain, and show priorities they normally guard. Impatience is a product of perceived advantage. When someone believes you lack options, they stop managing themselves carefully. They talk more freely, test boundaries faster, and escalate without securing position. The mistake most people make is proving competence too early. They clarify, justify, demonstrate intelligence, and shut down the flow of information. The moment others realize you're tracking everything, they stop revealing. Controlled weakness keeps the channel open. There's power in letting assumptions remain uncorrected. If someone believes you didn't notice a shift or contradiction, they feel safe repeating it. Patterns emerge. Intent becomes visible. Timing becomes readable. What they think is invisibility is actually exposure. Controlled weakness turns the observer into the driver. You're no longer responding to pressure, you're shaping it. Others reveal limits while you conserve yours. 3. Why explaining yourself makes you lose. Machiavelli warned against unnecessary honesty, not because truth is harmful, but because explanation shifts control away from you. The instant you begin justifying actions, motives, or decisions, you surrender authority over interpretation. What started as clarity becomes an opening. What felt like transparency turns into leverage for the other side. The trick: explanations invite evaluation. Once you explain, others feel entitled to judge whether your reasoning is valid, sufficient, or acceptable. This changes the dynamic. You're no longer acting from position, you're seeking approval. Dirty players don't argue your outcome, they dissect your reasoning, because reasoning can be twisted. Every explanation creates structure. Structure creates angles. Angles create opportunities. The more detail you provide, the more material exists to challenge, distort, or weaponize. Why silence wins. Silence offers no surface to attack. It cannot be edited, quoted, or selectively remembered. What remains unsaid cannot be reframed against you. Explaining also reveals priorities. When you justify, you expose what matters to you, what you fear being misunderstood about, and where pressure affects you most. Dirty players study these signals and adjust future tactics around them. The psychology shift. Once you begin explaining, you feel invested in being understood. This investment makes you reactive. You start correcting interpretations, clarifying tone, defending intent. Each response pulls you deeper into their frame. The conversation stops being about facts and becomes about narrative control. Authority's secret. Authority rarely explains itself. It announces decisions, not rationale. When you act decisively without over-commentary, others adjust around you. When you over-communicate, others test boundaries. 4. Dirty players. Never attack. They position. Direct confrontation is rarely the preferred move of those who understand influence. Open attacks create resistance, visibility, and risk. Positioning, however, reshapes outcomes without friction. The trick. Dirty players don't push you into conflict. They place you inside circumstances where any response works against you. Instead of accusing, they suggest. Instead of opposing, they frame. Instead of challenging, they arrange conditions that limit your options. You're not forced to act, you're guided into acting. Once you respond, the environment has already been designed to make you appear impatient, emotional, or unreasonable. Positioning relies on context, not force. Perception is formed by surroundings, timing, and comparison. Dirty players wait until others are present. They choose moments when you're rushed, tired, or under pressure. They introduce variables quietly, then step back. When tension rises, they remain calm, allowing contrast to work in their favor. Reputation is rarely destroyed by accusation. It erodes through implication. When someone appears consistently composed while you appear reactive, observers draw conclusions without needing instruction. Dirty players don't need to discredit you openly. They let patterns do the work. Defending yourself loudly often fails because defense confirms the frame that something needs defending. The more energy you invest in correcting perception, the more attention you draw to it. Positioning also works through role assignment. You're cast into a part before you speak, the complainer, the difficult one, the impatient one. Once the role is established, every action is interpreted through that lens. Dirty players don't argue facts. They manage labels. The counter, the response isn't aggression, it's composure and observation. When you slow down, you disrupt the design. When you refuse to perform the expected role, the script weakens. When you respond minimally, the contrast disappears. Positioning fails when there's no reaction to amplify. 5. Why fairness is a trap. Fairness feels safe because it offers moral comfort, not because it guarantees balance. People cling to it believing outcomes will correct themselves over time. This belief collapses the moment one side abandons the rules while the other remains loyal to them. The trick. Fairness only functions inside shared agreement. Outside of that, it becomes a vulnerability. Dirty players recognize when someone is committed to equal treatment regardless of context. They exploit that commitment by stepping outside boundaries while expecting you to stay inside them. You hesitate, they advance. You calculate ethics, they calculate advantage. The mismatch determines the result before any exchange finishes. The trap's nature. The trap of fairness isn't kindness, it's rigidity. When you insist on equal standards in unequal environments, you remove your ability to adapt. Dirty players rely on this. They know you'll hesitate to escalate. They know you'll avoid appearing excessive. They know you fear being seen as unjust more than being disadvantaged. Justice. Without power, justice without enforcement is symbolic. It communicates values but produces no consequence. Dirty players are unmoved by symbols. They respond only to cost. When behavior carries no price, it repeats. When imbalance creates comfort, it deepens. The delay cost, fairness, also delays decision-making. While you assess what's appropriate, others act on what's effective. This delay isn't neutral, it transfers momentum. Dirty players understand tempo. They move while others deliberate. The psychological reward. There's also a psychological reward tied to fairness. It allows people to feel superior while losing position. This is why many intelligent individuals remain trapped. They confuse moral satisfaction with strategic success. Accuracy versus fairness. Playing accurately is different from playing fairly. Accuracy responds to reality as it is, not as it should be. It adjusts to behavior, not ideals. When someone crosses a line, accuracy responds proportionally, not politely. It introduces consequence without apology. It doesn't seek balance, it restores leverage. The counterattack. Dirty players often accuse others of being unfair when control is threatened. This accusation is strategic. It triggers guilt and pressures you to retreat into restraint. The moment you begin defending fairness, you abandon advantage. 6. The psychology of delayed response speed often disguises itself as confidence, while patience is mistaken for hesitation. In reality, immediate reactions frequently serve the other side more than they serve you. The trick. Dirty players rely on urgency. They push for quick answers, fast decisions, and instant emotional engagement because momentum reduces your ability to choose deliberately. A delayed response disrupts expectation. When others anticipate reaction and receive stillness instead, uncertainty forms. That uncertainty creates internal pressure. Minds begin racing to fill the gap. Motives are questioned, strategies are reconsidered. The silence becomes active, even though nothing is being said. Information asymmetry, quick replies reveal priorities, emotional triggers, and tolerance thresholds. Delay removes these signals. Without feedback, dirty players lose orientation. The advantage quietly shifts. Time amplifies imbalance. Those who rush leak information, those who wait gather it. A pause allows you to observe shifts in tone, escalation attempts, or backtracking. What was initially confident often becomes restless. What was calculated begins to wobble. Emotional reversal. Delayed response also reverses emotional gravity. The person who waits controls attention. Others begin wondering what's being considered, what's being prepared, or what they may have misjudged. Anxiety grows in the absence of confirmation. This anxiety weakens position without confrontation. Not avoidance, intention. Delay is not avoidance, it's intentional withholding. Dirty players expect friction or compliance. They rarely anticipate composure without explanation. This composure interrupts their script. They can't proceed confidently without knowing where you stand. What pressure reveals? Pressure reveals character over time. When reactions slow, impatience surfaces. Repeated follow-ups appear. Tone sharpens. Attempts to regain control increase. Each attempt exposes intent. Delay turns the other side into the performer. Reputation effect. Those who respond instantly appear reactive. Those who choose timing appear measured. Observers notice this contrast. Authority is associated with control over pace, not volume of response. Delayed reactions signal self-command. Against emotional manipulation. Delay also protects against manipulation through emotion. When feelings are given time to settle, clarity replaces impulse. Decisions made after pause are harder to redirect. Dirty players depend on emotional immediacy. Remove that and their influence fades. 7. Why they try to confuse your identity. Control becomes effortless once a person loses internal certainty. When someone no longer trusts their own direction, They begin looking outward for confirmation. Dirty players understand this deeply. The trick: instead of attacking behavior, they target self-concept. Once identity becomes unstable, resistance collapses without force. This tactic rarely appears aggressive. It arrives as commentary, subtle remarks, comparisons to a past version, statements framed as concern. The goal isn't correction, it's disorientation. When someone begins questioning whether they're acting in character, they slow down. They hesitate. They second-guess instinct. Identity confusion creates friction inside the mind. Energy that should be used for observation gets redirected toward self-evaluation. How it works. Most people tie self-image to external validation. When others challenge that image, discomfort arises. The desire to correct perception activates. Behavior becomes reactive. The person tries to prove alignment with the past rather than acting in the present. Dirty players imply deviation. They suggest loss of authenticity. They frame change as decline. Boundary disruption. Confusion also disrupts boundary enforcement. When someone doubts their own stance, they hesitate to assert limits. Dirty players recognize this hesitation and apply pressure there. They don't need to overpower, they simply wait for uncertainty to do the work. Historical pattern. Rulers fell not from attack but from loss of clarity. Once identity fractured, decisions became inconsistent. Inconsistency invited challenge. Challenge invited collapse. The same principle applies on a smaller scale. Internal division weakens external position. The defense, internal anchoring. Identity must be defined privately, not socially. When values and direction are self-established, external commentary loses power. Others may question, but doubt doesn't take root. Dirty players rely on the assumption that you need agreement to proceed. When that assumption fails, their leverage disappears. You're no longer guided by approval or disapproval. You act from alignment, not reassurance. Intentional versus induced change. Change. Chosen intentionally is strength. Change induced through confusion is weakness. Growth involves change, but it must be self-directed. When you trust your internal compass, external noise fades. Dirty players lose the ability to guide behavior because there's nothing loose to pull. The power of steadiness. Clarity isn't loud, it's steady. And steadiness makes manipulation expensive. 8. The most underrated weapon, inconsistency. Stability comforts observers, but uncertainty unsettles those seeking control. When behavior becomes too consistent, it turns into a pattern others can anticipate. Anticipation creates planning. Planning creates leverage. The trick. Dirty players don't fear strength, they fear unpredictability. Controlled inconsistency isn't disorder, it's selective variation. It means choosing when to be available and when distant, when to engage, and when to withhold. This variation disrupts expectation. Others can't settle into a reliable rhythm around you. Without rhythm, influence weakens. Dirty players thrive on prediction. They test reactions, map habits, and measure response time. Once they understand your default behavior, they design approaches around it. Inconsistency breaks that design, creating psychological friction. When reactions shift without explanation, calculation fails. Machiavelli favored irregularity because it creates psychological friction. People become cautious when outcomes vary. They slow down, they question assumptions, they hesitate before acting. This hesitation returns control to you without confrontation. Breaking entitlement. Predictable behavior invites entitlement. When people know what to expect, they assume access. They expect replies, availability, and accommodation. Inconsistency interrupts entitlement. It reintroduces boundaries without announcement. Dirty players interpret consistency as obligation. They push against it, knowing you'll respond the same way each time. Irregularity removes this advantage. When access isn't guaranteed, behavior adjusts. Respect increases quietly. Information. Protection. Inconsistency also protects information. When responses are uniform, others infer intent. When variation exists, intent remains unclear. This ambiguity prevents strategic targeting. Dirty players can't plan effectively without understanding how you'll react. Control requires familiarity. The less familiar you become, the harder you are to manipulate. This doesn't mean chaos, it means refusing to offer a fixed version of yourself to everyone. Autonomy signal controlled inconsistency signals autonomy. It communicates choice. The key is intentionality. Randomness without purpose creates confusion. Variation with awareness creates power. Each shift should serve positioning, not impulse. Reversing adaptation. When inconsistency is applied correctly, others adapt to you instead of you adapting to them. They wait, they observe, they hesitate. The advantage reverses. You're no longer reacting within their frame. They're adjusting within yours.